What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined by my co-host, Colin Alcabes. We are here to bring you part two of the December 6th, 2024 breakdown. It started with the Jacob Trouba trade. We covered that in yesterday's episode. We all know a couple hours after that trade went down, the Rangers finally extended Igor Shesterkin. So we're here today to break down that contract, give our thoughts on that. So we're going to get right on into it. But before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss notification. Leave your thoughts on this contract down in that comment section below. And lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. But Colin, you told me you're wearing a Tigers jersey today. I also decided to wear a Tigers jersey today. Just a little different, different Tigers, different colors. Your team is doing much better than mine. So shout out the Tigers. But how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. Any day that we're talking about Rangers, obviously, as I always say, is a good day. Excited to end this podcast and actually go watch the Rangers play potentially an emergency backup goalie, the E-Bug for the Kraken. I heard they were warming up. You told me right before we started this. But first things first, let's talk about our goalie and his new contract. 8 years, $11.5 million. I know that we were all kind of angry when he declined the 11 and then haggling over the extra $500K. I know it was frustrating, but I'm happy it's done. He's one of the best goalies in the game currently, if not the best goalie in the game, at least over his worker body. I know right now he's not playing as well as everybody would like, but goalies are the backbone of the team. You really need them, especially with the way that our defense is structured. We weren't set up to succeed without a superstar goalie. Unfortunately, that's how it's been for a while, and I'm happy that they were able to get a deal done. I definitely still want them to work on the defense, so don't think I'm saying that. But yeah, there's a whole lot in this contract to go over, so I don't know if you want to jump into the financials of it.
Yeah, I mean, 8-year contract, max length will kick in next year because obviously he's still tenured for the rest of this season. Comes with a $11.5 million cap hit, which I'm happy about. The reports are saying that Shesterkin actually left money on the table to get this contract done. He was aiming for 12, maybe even a little bit higher. But after the Trouba trade went down and we freed up that $8 million, Chris Drury showed up on Igor Shesterkin's doorstep with a wad of cash and said, take it. And Shesterkin said, I'll take it, but I'll let you keep a little bit, because it appears that Shesterkin, as much as we, kind of hated on him a little bit for acting selfish and just going for that personal record to become that highest paid goalie of all time, he does care about winning. He wanted to leave Drury a little bit of room to work on that defense, like you said, that Jacob Trouba trade that I'm sure we're going to continue to reference for the next couple months at this point. It's a start, but the defense is not fixed whatsoever. There's still a lot of problems that need to be addressed. For example, Keandre Miller, Ryan Lindgren, blah, blah, blah. The same old symbol that we've been talking about this entire season. If you've been watching, you know exactly what we're talking about. So, shout out Shesterkin for leaving some money there on the table. That makes me really happy to see. It's not as selfish as we might have assumed at one point, but he's actually doing his best to help the team out, leaving Drury as much wiggle room as possible to continue to bolster this lineup. So I love the 8 years, 11.5. The only thing that I'm kind of iffy about is that it is a full no move clause all the way through. I think if there's one lesson that we should have learned throughout last year and this year, it's that no trade clauses and no move clauses can hurt us. Just look at the Trouba situation that just happened. Look at what's happening right now with Mika Zibanejad. Because right now, obviously, we want to keep Shesterkin. But, 8 years from now, when it's 2033, or I can't do quick math, and Shesterkin's in his early 30s, if his play starts to decline, we can't buy him out. We can't put him on waivers, but that's a problem for the future. As of right now, I think that I love this contract. I love the number. I love the term. And it's like we talked about the big cloud that was hanging over the Rangers. I think there were two of them. It was Jacob Trouba and Shesterkin. And within the span of 3 hours, Chris Drury got both of them done on the same day. So I'm more than content with it. I like it. And congrats to Shesterkin. He got what he wanted. He's the highest paid goalie in NHL history. Not the highest paid player on the Rangers, though. That still goes to Artemi Panarin. So
yeah,
thank you, Igor.
I am happy that he was able to bend the knee there a little bit and not be like the highest paid. I know that was a big talking point for his camp. I also want to mention that $85 million of that Mondo contract are in signing bonuses. So he does receive it a little bit differently. I don't know the exact numbers. I saw a couple tweets, and we're going to work to find that and probably put it up on our socials soon, I'd imagine. But it is structured differently than your average contract. So I believe he gets a lot more of it earlier on, and then it starts to get better as it goes on, as the deal progresses. I also think that this deal will age very well for the Rangers as the cap goes up. This deal won't look as bad right now. It does look a little bit expensive, at least in my opinion, because the next closest high paid goalie is Bob at 10, but Bobrovsky just won a cup. So it is possible to win with a goalie making this much. If he was getting 12 or 13, I would have had a little bit more of a negative reaction to this, even though I wanted to keep Igor. But 11.5 is definitely doable. They can, if the Panthers can surround him, Bobrovsky, that is, with a supporting cast that can go and win him a cup, then there's no reason that we can't do the same with $1.5 million less, especially with as many young players that we have on league minimums right now and on those bridge deals. It's definitely a possibility that we can still build a championship roster here. I know that was a big thing that a lot of people were against signing him for. If you gave him that money, you'd kind of close the window right now. But I don't think that's the case at all, and especially with the removal of the $8 million, as we've mentioned before, and we'll continue to mention as we look at players who we're going to add and things like that. It definitely gives us a lot of flexibility, and I'm happy that we were able to get a deal done. You're right, got both clouds away, and now sunny, bright days for the Rangers going forward.
Well, I don't know if I would consider it sunny, bright days. It's like the two big clouds are gone, but there's still a few. It's like
hoping,
like scattered showers are projected in New York.
Penguins, I'm hoping that they can kind of turn that corner now that some of the bigger nagging things are done. Igor doesn't have to worry about every save he makes lowering his, or every goal he lets in lowering the dollar amount. At least that will put pressure on me, knowing that how well I perform is impacting how much money I'm going to make, obviously, in the next year. I think that the reason why he was trying to get this deal done now sooner is because he was struggling and he saw that dollar value dipping and dipping with each game. So now hopefully he can put that behind him and just focus on his play and not focus on the money. He's got his bag. So now just go out there, be great, and help the Rangers win games again, similar to what he did last year after the deadline. I know he kind of struggled in that first half of the season, and then after that he picked it up and he finished like 4th in Vezina voting. So luckily hopefully he's got a lot earlier of a start to kind of turning it around. And he can just focus on being the best that he has, and hoping the Rangers win games night in and night out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I will say, though, like the one thing that I don't love about the contract and paying a goalie so high is, I've said this numerous times, but the days that Shesterkin doesn't play, that's like a very large chunk of your cap just sitting on the bench. Like we pay 11.6 for Panarin, but Panarin also plays a full 82 game season. Shesterkin typically is only going to play 2/3 of a season max. Look at today against the Seattle Kraken. Right now, actually, the game puck drop is in about 2 minutes at the time that I'm saying this sentence, but the game will probably be close to halfway done by the time this episode uploads. So to you fans watching, you've already seen this. Shesterkin is not in net today. It's Jonathan Quick because, again, congrats to Shesterkin. His wife's in labor. He got the bag and another kid all in the same week. So congrats to the Shesterkins. But, it's days like this. What happens next season if Shesterkin is sick and he's out with the flu or something? Then you have $11.5 million riding the bench, or not even on the bench.
It's hard to argue that, because what if Panarin gets hurt? Then you have all that money. I guess you could tie it up in LTIR or whatever, but
injuries are always a factor that you have to consider. But then let's just take injuries or illnesses or personal stuff like what's happening today out of it. There's Shesterkin's still going to get rest days where Jonathan Quick is just going to get the start as always.
Yeah, but I think that also Quick making like the league minimum basically makes it little to nothing. Thank God.
That's true. I mean, that's true for this season. Quick's contract is also expiring after this year, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, but I also think that the difference between like a goalie contract and a player contract is a goalie can single-handedly sink your team or win you games, and we've seen it. We've seen it firsthand. We saw it with Hank. We've seen it with Shesterkin, and we can go back even further. I know you and me personally haven't seen prior to Hank, but I mean Richter. There's a long list of legendary goalies that have won us games that we had no business winning, and we've very much seen it with Shesterkin. The video they posted yesterday on their social, on the New York Rangers page, where they congratulated him for the contract, and he was just making save after save, or maybe it was Bleacher Report or whatever it was. It was just the amount of like crazy saves that they posted that he's already made, and I feel like he really hasn't even been in the league for that long. Relatively speaking to other goalies, it's just absurd. He already has like such a highlight reel, one that, in my opinion, rivals Hank's. You know, it's just incredible, and he's only now hitting his prime. I know, obviously, I say that not currently, but like he's getting into that prime age where he's just going to be an absolute unit. So I think that paying a guy like that who can really turn the tides is more important than paying the forward, just because like a forward can have a bad game and you could still win, but if a goalie has a bad game, then you could lose. It's important that you pay a goalie who doesn't really have a whole lot of bad games, at least not in a row. So I feel like Igor has had very few of those moments where he struggled in a large sample size. I mean, last year, as I mentioned before, we only lost 3 games in a row once all season. So like, even if he wasn't playing great, he's playing good enough to win games. Obviously not Vezina caliber, but still good enough to win games. This is the biggest slump I've seen him fall in, and if this is the biggest, I'm fine with that because he can easily get out of this. It's early on.
I mean, I'll also add that the way that the Rangers are structured is we are a team that is very reliant on world-class goaltending.
Yeah.
Like when Shesterkin does not play well, we've seen what happens. It's some of the worst hockey you've ever seen. But when Shesterkin's on his A game, all of a sudden we're winning President's trophies and making it to the conference finals. So that's just our fault for being built that way. Look back at the Colorado Avalanche when they won the Cup in, 2022? They were a team that did not rely on goaltending. They were just a stacked team all around, and they just had a mediocre goalie who just did what he needed to do, stopped a couple pucks, and then they won the Stanley Cup. There's 2 different types of teams in the NHL. We're the type of team that requires Shesterkin to be on his A game every single time. But I don't know. Hopefully the weight is lifted off of his shoulders. Now he's got his money. He doesn't have to worry about it anymore. And hopefully he's going to have a brand new defensive core around him pretty soon. Our defense is young now. After Trouba being traded away, Adam Fox is actually the oldest defenseman on our roster right now, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Because I remember, feels like last season Adam Fox was making his NHL debut. So it's pretty crazy. We got a lot of young guys. Hopefully he'll get better. And Chris Drury will hopefully continue to work his magic and make this team a Stanley Cup winning team, because I want to win a cup, man. But I don't know. By the way, someone commented on one of our videos recently saying that we were spoiled Rangers fans. And I'm like, how are we spoiled? Am I spoiled for having never seen my team win the cup?
It happens. I mean, we do have a record of being a really good team, but unfortunately that record of being a really good team has brought us no championships.
Well, I would rather expect disappointment. Like, being an Islanders fan must be so much easier because they just start the season and they're like, yeah, we know we're not going anywhere. Like, well, we're not going to get our hopes up.
Then they're pleasantly surprised and they make the playoffs, but then their first round exit. So
yeah, being a Rangers fan, every season starts and I'm like, this is the year.
It's tough when you're a contender every year, and then losing the first round of the Devils after going to the conference final, and then you go up 2-1 in the conference final and you lose and whatnot. But that is neither here nor there. Got to look forward. And I love what they're doing with the team right now, and I hope that Drury continues to cook. I know he said he's going to let things settle for a little bit, but he's got a little room to play with, and this is probably the last shot with this core. So let's see what he does with it.
Yep. We'll see what he does with it, but that about wraps up our discussion about Igor Shesterkin's new contract. Once again, congrats, Igor, on the money and the kid. Ranger games starting right about now. So me and Colin got to run to watch that and provide you with more content. All the live updates will be posted on our social media accounts at Fireside Rangers, so be sure to follow them. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and you ring that bell so you don't miss a notification. And lastly, let us know your thoughts on this contract down in that comment section below. But thank you to all for watching. Have a good one, and let's go Rangers.